Well, the government has done its best to look busy with roundtables and announcements as it responds to the fire crisis. But the positive funding announcements have been overshadowed by ministers making headlines, one speaking out on the climate, another facing a slush fund saga. This is the week in politics.
The Prime Minister fronts up, conceding some of the criticism for his handling of the bushfire crisis was fair.
There are things that I could have handled on the ground much better.
But quickly seeking to regain the political momentum, calling for a no-holds-barred royal commission.
I think Australians have a very reasonable expectation that any commission of inquiry, royal commission, would need to cover the full gambit of issues.
But Victoria and New South Wales are planning their own inquiries.
Well, I think it's important for each state to undertake their own review.
Forcing a shift in focus from the Prime Minister, who quickly suggested a federal one wouldn't be a blame game for the states.
Should the truck have gone down this street or the other one, or at what time, and that sort of issue. That's not the basis of it.
The Prime Minister's personal approval rating taking a dive in the first news poll since the crisis unfolded, seeing Anthony Albanese become preferred Prime Minister for the first time, leading 43-39.
I've heard the message loud and clear from the Australian people.
Right now, we've got a Prime Minister who is doing everything he can to avoid responsibility for his failures.
But the Prime Minister instead was doing everything he could to look busy, with a week of roundtables and announceables unveiled day after day. $76 million to combat mental health on Sunday, $50 million towards wildlife recovery on Monday, $100 million in helping farmers rebuild on Tuesday, before offering the charity sector $50 million on Wednesday.
To assist in a more rapid recovery for our regions.
Family assistance payments were also doubled, all out of the government's $2 billion bushfire recovery fund.
It's all about focusing on the basics people need right now.
Labor leaders, past and present, standing up to call for more action on climate change.
People don't stop me and say, what is the cost of acting on climate change? People now, right across Australia, say, what is the cost of not acting on climate change?
Labor has had a strong policy on climate change we've taken to every election.
As the Science Minister declared the climate science settled.
Every second that we spend discussing whether or not climate change is real is a second that we don't spend talking about and putting in place the strategies to mitigate.
Away from the recovery response, Deputy Nationals leader Bridget McKenzie accused of a misfire. After the National Auditor revealed her office dished out more than $100 million in sporting grants, the majority not based on merit but aimed at marginal seats.
No rules were broken. Every single project that was funded was eligible to receive that funding.
The Minister says Labor seats benefited too.
There's a case of reverse pork barrelling going on.
I don't see how Bridget McKenzie remains a minister.
Unsurprisingly, the government sees her future very differently. Minister McKenzie surviving the sport slush fund furor. David Shiraz, Sky News, Canberra.